defense scramble, put them back on the heels right from the get-go.
Jesse Dickerson, Brian Garland, and Iffy Seals are officiating crew, a Big 12 veteran group. As we open up play, K-State in the white, Bearcats in the black, in front of a great crowd here today at Bramlett's Coliseum, a near full house for the Wildcat Big 12 opener. Sundell going strong, trying to post up, has her shot blocked, and Cincinnati holds serve on their first defensive stop, as you see their starting five, led by Hilton, the point guard, and of course Hayes in the post.
Well, one of the messages from Coach Merriweather coming into today, they know they've got to play well to have a chance. That means you're going to have to get stops and you got to make shots. If you're Kansas State, that is the pace you want to be at. They want to play fast, get out in transition, see if they can't really force some threes and get those early looks.
K-State coming in 87 points per game. That is second best in the Big 12, 10th in the nation, and their scoring margin averaging a 38-point win this season, and their 12-1 start is the best in all of college basketball.
There were some lopsided wins in the non-conference, but I think it's just been the decisive way in which this Kansas State team has won ball games this year.
Glenn on the run out, couldn't finish. Good pressure at the end by Reagan Jackson.
And now this Cincinnati lineup, they don't have as much depth, probably as Coach Merriweather would like. And so it's going to be critical for them to also keep themselves out of foul trouble. But you've seen them be aggressive, really contest K-State at the rim so far the last couple trips. That's where they have to continue to go with their defensive stance.
Glenn knocks the ball away from Ariel Jackson. Cincinnati being forced to use a lot of clock here in this first quarter on this possession. They're going to say it went off of Jackson. It'll be K-State basketball.
Yeah, I didn't see that deflection, but it's going to be a turnover, and Kansas State's got to take it. Now, these are the ones we said you got to limit those turnovers. If you're K-State, you got to capitalize. The last couple trips, they've tried to go one-on-one. They're looking for the ISOs, but that ball's got to get into the post. You got to allow Lee to operate.
Lee tried to pass out of it. Couldn't get a clean look to Poindexter. Over the top, knocking away the ball was Ndiba, native of Congo, true college transfer, two-time All-American.
And I think the key for Ndiba, the second leading rebounder on this team behind Hayes, as we mentioned at the top, she's the one averaging a double-double, but Ndiba is going to be a big factor here. You got to play big, you got to be physical with Lee in the post.
Sundell, shot blocked by Ndiba. The leader in that set category for Cincinnati. Bearcats a little thinner in the post without Aisha Dia and Destiny Thomas. Thomas, a starter from a year ago. Looks like Thomas is closer to coming back than Dia. Back cut here by Jackson. K-State defends it well, but does allow the basket, and Cincinnati breaks out on top.
And you see them slowing things down in the half court, Brian. I think this is going to be a part of how they want to attack this Wildcat defense. We said you got to be aggressive, but you also want to be smart. They themselves, the last couple trips, very good execution offensively.
Sundell pressured out high, turns the ball over. Picked up by Hilton. She'll lay it in on the run out.
And there's that chaos, is that already from the get-go. Aggressive, out in the passing lane, forcing this Kansas State out of system a bit, trying to get touches for Lee, but then making it tough when she wants to go one-on-one inside.
You see, the catches for Lee are not right near the basket where she has been before, and Diva's done a good job of moving her out of the post. He stayed a bit disjointed to Poindexter, gets the loose ball back, has it ripped away again, this time by Jackson. And settling into the half court of the Bearcats. Not a great three-point shooting team, but they are a good driving team to the basket.
Yeah, putting it on the bounce and being able to get to the rim is going to be key here this afternoon. But also loose balls, second chance opportunities, those 50-50 possessions. Right now, playing into the hands of Cincinnati. You reset that shot clock, you force K-State to guard you through another set of 20.
Winding it down under 5. Hayes with the ball. Into Ndiba. Over Lee, it's out of bounds and a shot clock violation by the Bearcats.
I don't like I like how Cincinnati has gone so far these last couple trips, Brian. They have slowed it down. And I think if you're Coach Merriweather and you look at some of these matchups where they think they can have an advantage and be effective, is you almost, as we saw in the back cut where you had the easy bucket for Jackson, you can lull this Wildcat defense a little bit to sleep. You're the Cats, you've got to be more aggressive, you've got to stay on your toes, and they've got to find some ways here to execute.
Poindexter, top of the circle, three-pointer.
That helps, that opens it up. She was just 1 of 3 against New Mexico State on Wednesday night. Feet set, shot ready. That is Tamara Poindexter.
38% is what the Wildcats shoot from behind the three-point line as a team. Second best in the Big 12, top 15 in the country. Offside rebound goes to Cincinnati. One of the Big 12's best in offensive rebounding, and they pit in the stick back.
Well, we just said it at the top, 18 offensive rebounds in their win against Marshall earlier this week, their last non-conference game. You got to block out at all 5 positions.
Sundell, who's had a tough start from behind the three-point line, could not hit it. And lead rebound to Cincinnati. The last few games, K-State's had slow starts against New Mexico State and Middle Tennessee, but then were able to have huge second halves to blow away those teams. Bearcats holding their own here early. Byers, who came in off the bench, spinning on Glenn, could not hit the shot. Rebound Poindexter.
But that's that rim protection we said of Ioka Lee. She's going to alter shot. She's going to make you think twice about going into that paint.
There's Poindexter with sides in the game for K-State. The first sub for the Wildcats, the nation leader in three-point shooting. Lee in the paint, turnaround, couldn't hit it. Working that time against Hayes.
And a tough matchup because the little lack of depth that Cincinnati has. You're going to see Hayes have to play that 5. She's going to match up with Lee in the post. Those are going to be the possessions K-State's got to take advantage of.
A timeout on the floor when we come back. With the defense of Cincinnati taking center stage, we'll talk about K-State's mindset heading into Big 12 play. Sophie Smith with us when we were getting that early 4-minute, midway through the first quarter timeout. A little pressure by Cincinnati out of the timeout. 1 of 7, though, is all K-State has started so far to this point.
Now you without Ioka Lee in the lineup. Jeff Mittie makes that substitution. It changes how Cincinnati can guard you as well. But that's where you've got to generate second chance opportunities. Offensive glass, next pass. K-State makes him pay.
Jalen Glenn on the assist from Sides, who had 2 running at her.
40% from Jalen Glenn so far from three-point range coming into this game, averaging just over 10 points a game. When she can get her feet set and she's got space, that's where she's most effective from deep.
Delaney Snyder at 6'5", a sophomore now in the post for Cincinnati. An air ball put up by Chloe Mann. It's a bit of a homecoming for Mann. True freshman from Fort Worth, whose parents both went to K-State. We'll get more on that later, but Katrina Merriweather telling us that Mann is one that was not afraid to put up shots, and lots of them. Sides could get called for a travel as she trying to pass up to Poindexter. So yeah, turnover number 4.
Chloe Mann, the 5'8" freshman, she's got a winning mentality, incredibly competitive, as Coach Merriweather talked to us about the other day. She's coming off a game where she had 12 points, 5 turnovers versus Marshall in that win they had right before they came here. Some of that is the freshman learning and understanding. Now you're into Big 12 play. This is where shot selection and execution becomes even more critical for this Cincinnati offense.
Bearcats 3 of 11 from the field to start. They've taken just 1 3. Sundell with a block shot on the drive by Jackson. That's the 11th block of the season for Sundell, who ranks in the conference top 10. Taylor gets a post-up opportunity, left-hand layup.
And that's deep, and that's because Cincinnati had to scramble, and that's where Kansas State has to be. You've got to look post first, find your shooters out on the perimeter.
Ariel Jackson, right elbow jumper off the back of the backboard, couldn't get it. Put back by Snyder, does not go, and K-State the rebound. While Cincinnati's so great on offensive boards, K-State the best defensive rebounding team in the Big 12. They're strength on strength in that regard.
Well, and it goes
away from the ball in 3 seconds on K-State, results in a turnover.
I think it goes back, Brian, to what we talked about before, some of those 50-50 possessions. So you've got a team that is just going to hunt misses and loose balls on the offensive end. For the Wildcats, they have had the size, they have been at an advantage. We talk about their length and their size and speed, especially out on the perimeter. That's all about block out. All 5 have to go find somebody. You one and done mentality, that has been a big piece of what has allowed this Kansas State team to run to 12-1.
Cincinnati at 8-2 to begin the year. Losses coming against some very good teams in their MTE, Florida Gulf Coast, one of those. Perennial power. Jillian Hayes puts a shoulder into a defender and scores.
That's one of the things I think about her game, makes her so difficult to guard. She'll step in that low post, she'll step on that short corner, be able to go right by the defender.
How about that blow by? Speaking of going right by the defender, Taryn Sides showing a little different part of her game.
She's got to be able to be a versatile scorer. Everybody in the country now, she is going to be circled on every single Big 12 scouting report. How do you do that? Run them off the three-point line and force people, if they're going to give you the ability to put it on the floor, make them pay.
Jackson tried the home run pass on a backdoor cut. It goes out for another turnover. That'll be Cincinnati's fourth. Lee and Eliza Moppin come into the game. Lee returning, Moppin making her first appearance. Poindexter and Taylor get a breather. K-State, a very deep team. They'll play 10 players, and they'll often get all 10 involved early. The only one that was a question mark today was Sanchez. Moppin on a drive and finish.
That's your job. You're going to get those limited minutes off the bench for Eliza Moppin, Kennedy Taylor, Amani Lester. When they come in, it's very simple. Rebound, defend, don't turn it over, and you've got to finish at the rim.
Now, after starting 1 for 8 from the field, K-State has gone 4 for their last 4. Hayes in the paint. Could not get over Sundell. It's a tough matchup for both. The power of Hayes, the length of Sundell.
And now Cincinnati just 1 of 8 themselves. K-State's been able to turn the tables. But these are the possessions right here. Loose ball, 50-51. They keep it here on this end of the floor.
Sides got run off the three-point line. Shoots a long 2 and misses. Kansas State, after falling behind early, able to lead by 4. Swiping at the ball here on the drive by Reagan Jackson. It's taken away. K-State in transition. Sundell to the basket. Couldn't get the lay-in. Moppin couldn't get the board. See the gap goat counter. 7 gap goats in one game. K-State has seen their stats to go, the analytics, to 90+% win percentage. And Glenn able to get another steal. 5 turnovers now for Cincinnati. Moppin on the other end, lays it in.
Live ball turnovers, that's been a killer for Cincinnati, especially in the games they have struggled and they have lost. K-State has been one of the most efficient teams. You create your own chaos, finish on the other end.
So after a slow start, K-State on a 6-0 run has closed the gap. A long 3 at the end does not go. The Bearcats end with over 2 minutes of not scoring and finish 1 of the last 9. You see Moppin getting some love from her teammates. Sharing the basketball, K-State leads the nation in assists. And they get 6 in that first quarter on 6 made shots. Gisela Sanchez makes her return after missing 5 games with a wrist injury. So K-State will in fact get all 10 players in here early. And a little zone by K-State to open up the second quarter.
Cincinnati just 1 of their last 9 in that first 10 minutes. Big a piece of that puzzle is you've got to be able to get penetration. They've got to find a way to attack the gaps and get inside this Kansas State defense.
Amani Lester with a block shot. Kansas State, another good defensive work and stop against this Cincinnati team. Jalen Glenn a drive, a hanger that will hit the rim and go in. Glenn with 5.
You've got to run Glenn, sides, even Walker off that three-point line, and then you've got to be effective off the bounce. If you're Jalen Glenn, take advantage of your size and your speed and length one-on-one and get to the rim.
Both Glenn twins, widely redshirting this year, are right-handed, but both prefer laying it in on the left side.
Big piece is just how you practice, but you've got to be comfortable going both directions, and that's what makes them effective. It also makes you difficult to guard. Sometimes it's all about the matchup. You got to be ready to go one-on-one.
Walker, little floater in the mid-range, a little too strong. Cincinnati able to turn it the other way. And a travel on the catch in the paint by Ramaya Bird, redshirt freshman from Colorado.
And that pace and speed that's what Katrina Merriweather wants. She wants this Cincinnati team to get out and go, but you can't turn the ball over. They have been so good at causing turnovers, but it's the live ball and the high numbers. That's when they put themselves in a bad spot.
Now these two teams, you said it earlier, they ranked 2 and 3 in the Big 12 in turnovers, as in they don't turn it over much. Both rated around 12, only 12 a game, but here we are. Cincinnati already has 6, K-State with 4. Three-pointer put up left side, out of bounds, and the Bearcats have shown no marksmanship from behind the arc to this point. 0 of 3. I'm not sure any of the 3 drew much iron.
Well, and I think not within the framework of what Cincinnati wants to do. They're going to get threes, and you've got to have them within your system. They can't be quick shots. That's really almost just like an easy turnover going the other direction.
Sanchez See, she's got a wrap on that left wrist to help protect it. The rebound comes to Amani Lester, and Lester fouled as she tried to go through traffic. Jeff Biddy and his staff have talked at length about Amani Lester, the work she has put in, finally healthy, finally starting to get a little bit of confidence as a sophomore and the future for K-State in the post.
Well, and you can see the frame at 6'3", the redshirt sophomore. She's got the tools. And a big piece of that is just limited amount of minutes she's had over the last 2 years. And then you've got to be ready. You got to go into work every day, into practice, into the film room, and understand and see what that role is. This is not to be able to give Kansas State 15 points a game. It is simple. As we said earlier about a player like Eliza Maupin, I think the Cincinnati coaches know they've got the same types on their bench as well. You got to defend, you got to rebound, you can't turn the ball over, and when you have an opportunity, you got to finish, and you got to hit free throws.
Lester, the former #8 post player in the country, stripped to the wall here is Cincinnati by Walker. Sanchez, 2 dribbles, or 2 steps, no dribbles, and lays it in.
We mentioned how Cincinnati wants to create their own chaos, that they need to generate some offense with their defense. But this Kansas State squad all season so far, it has been about the length and speed of their D and not allowing teams to take advantage and to dissect them. It has been stifling from the get-go. One of the best teams in the country so far this year. And as they continue to attack and get out in transition, that's where you make people pay.
Foul on Hilton was her first. Second on the Bearcats. It's been a relatively low foul game, but another turnover forced by K-State's defense. Those long arms of this K-State defense. Glenn in transition. Pull and pop and hit. Timeout Bearcats.
You have the turnover on one end. You push hard and find an open shooter. Feet set, ready to shoot the basketball, and Jalen Glenn knocks.
Has dominated all of a sudden to pull this lead up to 13.
Well, they've made some adjustments on the defensive end, as you said it, kind of a spread zone where that gets forced this Cincinnati team to have to figure out how you're going to attack it. That ball's got to get to the middle of the floor. You're going to have to be able to find some cutters. And this team not necessarily known for shooting the ball from behind the three-point line, just 25% so far this season. So you've got to figure out that attack mentality from the get-go.
Three-pointer put up by Abby Holtman, sophomore from Kentucky. And they're going to get a rebound foul on Kansas State.
And that's a look from the corner. Now Kansas State late getting back. They showed some full court pressure and a smart decision by Cincinnati to get that ball up the floor quick. But Holtman moved the miss. And Bird with that offensive rebound, as we said, a group that's going to crash the offensive glass. They've got to find a way to generate some second chance opportunities. This is how you can do it, but when you get to the line, you've got to knock down free throws.
Normally that's what Cincinnati does. They lead the Big 12 in free throw shooting at 80%, 8th in the nation. Bird hits 1 out of 2 to get her first point.
And so much of that is just because they are aggressive, that they're quick off the bounce. They're strong, difficult to be able to contain. And you saw that with that offensive rebound by Bird, just being in great position to go after it. But you've got to get to the line, and this is not a place of which you can continue to dig yourself a hole. You got to find a way out. The line's a way to do it.
So being an illegal screen, Maupin and Lester in the vicinity. They're going to get Lester for the foul. So Amani will get her first, second on K-State. Lester will check out. Lee returns. Let's have a look here at Lester. Maybe a little bit too much of the shoulder there.
Yeah, you stick that shoulder out and you make that contact. When you initiate it as the offensive player, that whistle is going to blow each and every time.
Bearcats looking for a bucket. They've hit just 5 in the game. Hayes takes a long jumper. Sundell with her length able to get to the rebound. 5 of 22 are the Bearcats from the field.
I like the fact that Cincinnati has pulled Hayes out, which then forces Ioka Lee out of the lane a bit. But if you're Hayes, that mid-range jumper, that's going to have to be money here this afternoon.
Quick hit into Lee. Out to Poindexter. Unable to hit the three-pointer. K-State trying to spread the floor against the Bearcats. Full head of steam the other way. Wild shot, and a foul will be called as Poindexter was locked up body to body.
Well, we mentioned that speed of Chloe Mann is that she's going to want to get up the floor. She saw it. No one picked the ball up in the open floor. Now Poindexter is behind the play. That's where the contact comes, and it's going to send Chloe Mann to the free throw line. She's been about almost over 88% from the line so far this year. This is a great place for the freshman to be able to get herself involved in this Bearcat offense, get to the line, force the action.
She is third in the Big 12 with that average. You said 88%, almost 89%. Cuts the gap to 10. Pass to Lee, and Lee is fouled by Hayes.
She made the right play, trying to get around, and knows that you've got to move your feet against Ioka Lee. She had her pinned deep. I think if Jillian Hayes uses that other arm to deflect that pass, she's going the other way for a layup. Instead, it's a whistle, and that's going to be a foul on Hayes. She's got to stay on the floor, got to stay out of foul trouble here this afternoon on the road.
When Diba returns, we'll see who gets the assignment of Lee in the post. It looks like it's Ndiba. Hayes lurking as help. Quickly the ball in, quickly the ball out for K-State on the offensive set. Sides a guarded three, couldn't get it. Back tap lands with Mann. Bearcats going the other way. Mann into Sides, could not get the shot. Offensive rebound, and Ndiba over Lee, couldn't get it, but a foul on Yoki. The All-American, her first, and then Diba to the free throw line for two, an 82% free throw shooter.
And that speed of Cincinnati as they push that ball out in the open floor. You get the miss and you go the other way, and it's Mann. She is not afraid to force the action, but Ndiba just keeping that possession alive, and Ioka Lee, she reaches, you make contact, and when you're scrambling and you're out of position, that's where this Cincinnati team needs to be able to get. They got to put K-State on the defensive, especially out in that open floor. Make them have to work. Can't make it as simple as possible. So much of this right now for Cincinnati, you've got to stay within striking distance, you got to continue to get stops, and you got to find a way to make them pay on the other end.
Well, the Bearcats have not hit a field goal in over 3 minutes, but Kansas State has not pulled away much. As you said, they've trimmed the gap from 13 down to 9.
And that was very much a momentum piece, and that's why Cincinnati took the timeout. They understood that. You cannot allow this K-State team to create that distance. Now Ioka Lee has come out of the ball game. Kennedy Taylor back in. It's different looks and different lineup here for the Wildcats. How can Cincinnati attack? What can they take advantage of?
Sidestep by Sides, hammers the three. The nation's best three-point shooter with her first.
That's the piece of her game right there that has improved and changed from freshman to sophomore year. She can create space, still deep behind the three-point line.
Stacey Foss, assistant coach for K-State, coaches the guards. That has been the point of emphasis. Jeff Biddy says working with Sides about the sidestep three and then eventually the backing up three-pointer. Tough shot hit in the face of Sundell by Hilton.
And Hilton, one of those players that can be an effective scorer, averaging over 14 a game. She's a team leader in assists and steals. But she comes to this Bearcat program, Brian, I think one of those interesting stories because she was a very intentional get by the Cincinnati coaching staff. They needed a point guard. Ariel Jackson a year ago had to be the primary ball handler. That wasn't necessarily her natural spot. Hilton has come to from Texas A&M. She has been a difference maker for them, especially at that point position.
Glenn did not get time to set her feet, so the ball is an air ball, and it's out to Cincinnati. Drive and a block by K-State with a foul.
That's a quick step by Chloe Mann, so you know now she is not necessarily going to be a threat from behind that three-point line. Poindexter gets her feet crossed up, and Mann takes absolutely advantage of it. Multiple people come to help, but way too much contact. And Chloe Mann back at the free throw line. Again, we said this has got to be kind of possession by possession if you are Cincinnati. Give yourself a chance, get to the line, force the action, foul trouble sooner or later. That could start to add up if you're Kansas State.
First free throw good for Mann. Misses the second, a rare miss, and the rebound comes to K-State. Wildcats trying to go long on the home run ball to Sundell. Gets tapped away by the Bearcats. A 7-3 run here by Cincinnati to make a modest dent into this lead for the Wildcats. Here's Mann trying to work on Walker. Fake the spin. Shot is up. It'll miss. Sides had the rebound go out of bounds. It'll go to K-State. We were talking about Tanea Hilton. For more on Hilton, let's go to Sophie Smith.
Thanks, Brian. Just having Hilton as such an offensive threat for the Bearcats has really just helped them spread the floor. She plays with such an incredible pace and speed, and she's able to push the ball in transition. She's really intentional finding shooters, but when she doesn't make those things happen, Coach Merriweather said that she can be really hard on herself, and there's really no room for her to be able to be hard on her forward because she already does it herself.
Yeah, and now she's got 2 fouls, Missy. That's a critical foul working against Sundell.
I think this is a decision right here, and that's where Coach Merriweather talking to Jessie Dickerson right here in front of us. First off, a lot of contact and push by Serena Sundell. I thought Hilton held her ground going one-on-one inside. At 6'1", a definite advantage, but she hits her on the arm, and it sends Serena Sundell to the free throw line. Tanea Hilton, one of those players. It was so interesting listening to Coach Merriweather talk about her, as Sophie mentioned, just simply because a year ago at Texas A&M, she was second for the Aggies in assists, but yet didn't play that many minutes. And so you think about where she comes from this season and having to take over the primary ball handling for Cincinnati, be that true leader on the floor. They need her to step up here big, especially to close out this first half.
Walker causing all sorts of issues out on the perimeter for Mann, and then Taylor able to get the ball inside, and Taylor with the swat, and then she gets swatted on the head by Hayes. And that is going to be 2 free throws on the other end. That is the 6th foul or 5th foul by Cincinnati.
Yeah, double. That will now put this Kansas State team in the double bonus for the last 3:32 here of this second quarter.
I said Hayes. It was Taylor Byers that got the foul, so it's a first on her. But yeah, now both teams in the bonus in the second quarter after no fouls were called in the first. Taylor hits the first free throw. Taylor, a 79% free throw shooter. What an addition she has been, coming to K-State from Missouri State, 2-time All-Valley, and the 6th player of the year last year.
She's given Jeff Mitty just over 14 minutes per game off the bench, but incredibly efficient as well. Over 52% from the field. You don't want to have that drop-off necessarily when Ioka Lee comes out of the lineup. A season ago, that was not something that K-State really had. There was a much bigger drop-off in that post. I feel like Kennedy Taylor has helped to fill that void for this Wildcat team.
Yeah, the continued improvement of Maupin, Lester, and then the addition of Taylor, no doubt, has made this team a big reason why they are the preseason favorites to win the Big 12. There's a legal screen on the other end, and then the foul got returned right back. Heady play by Chloe Mann, setting up Walker for the offensive foul.
Yeah, you had a moving screen on the other end by Cincinnati, but they do get it back here. Now, these are key possessions for the Bearcats. They have got to figure out a way to capitalize on the miscues by Kansas State.
There was contact. Mann did the right thing by selling it, and she hits the 3. The first of the game for the Bearcats, and that makes it an 8-point lead.
They don't shoot it well from behind that 3-point line, Brian, but when they can find it, it is an added addition to this offensive weapons for the Bearcats.
Sides early in the shot clock, did not want to take the 3. Taylor running to the right side, unable to hit the layup. Bearcats pushing tempo with Mann. And Lee coming back to the table for Kansas State. A low-scoring affair here in Bramlage in this first half. Bearcats trying to make a little bit of a charge here as they've held K-State without a field goal the last 3 minutes.
Also doing it without Jillian Hayes on the floor right now. Just 2 points for their leading scorers, averaging a double-double. And now Kansas State, they've got to attack when she's not on the floor.
Glenn in transition, and Jalen Glenn, the leading scorer for Kansas State with 11. We open the game talking about Lee and Hayes. Lee has not scored. Hayes, as you mentioned, just a bucket. Mann tried to sell contact, didn't get the whistle. Taylor with the rebound. Numbers for the Wildcats. In transition, Sides back to Walker. whips the ball into Taylor. Off the window, couldn't get it. And the Bearcats the rebound on a foul on Taylor over the back.
Yeah, back-to-back possessions, both missed by Kennedy Taylor. She tried to go right, can't finish. And a big-time block out by Bear, and she's gonna head by Bears, excuse me, she's headed to the free throw line. The 5'11" sophomore, she's played in every game so far this season, almost 17+ minutes off the bench. And Hayes is back in the lineup as well. So as you said, Brian, the two leading scorers for these Big 12 teams, not a factor right now, but how can Cincinnati keep themselves in it, keep it close? This is where you can do it, but they have struggled here early from the free throw line.
Uncharacteristically, 5 of 9 for the league's best free throw shooting team. One more for Byers. Paris, Kentucky. She makes that. 10-point lead for Kansas State, who's led by as many as 13. Cincinnati led 4-0 to start the game, but it's been the Wildcats since then. Walker calling for the ball on the far side. King State rotates it around, trying to get a spot for Lee. Sundell lost it for a moment, fouled, and that'll be the second on Byers.
And I love the fact that Kansas State has put Serena Sundell in that mid-range. The three-point shot is a piece of what she can do. She is a three-level scorer, but where she can operate is off the bounce, one-on-one inside, and that creates that matchup. At 6'1", she's hard to contain, but keeps that dribble alive, so patient when she gets those touches. Gets herself to the free throw line, continuing to extend this Kansas State lead here at home.
Sundell really averaging, or really heading into conference play on a high note. She has averaged 15 points, 8 assists a game the last 9 games, a triple-double included in that run.
18 points and 6 assists on Wednesday night against New Mexico State in that last non-conference game. The Wildcats handling their opponents very easily in non-con. And a big test here at home this afternoon to open conference.
And a block shot, Sundell all the way to the basket, and a foul on Cincinnati as Sundell ran into Reagan Jackson. Sundell may have caught a leg to her leg, so she's stopped for a moment just to make sure she's all right.
A lot of contact coming the other way. Jillian Hayes didn't get the whistle. And as Sundell tried to split the defenders, kind of gets tripped.
Kind of looked like a straight thigh to thigh.
Yeah.
Oh, you get that knee to the thigh. Kind of numbs everything. Sundell will walk it off as she hits the free throw line.
And that's also now the second personal foul on Jackson.
So you got 3 Bearcats with 2 fouls. Hilton, Jackson, both starters. And Byers off the bench with 2. 8 fouls in this frame by Cincinnati, 7 by K-State after neither team had a foul in the first. And Sundell will miss the first free throw. It's kind of been a foul fest here in this.
Many more whistles in this 10 minutes, that is no doubt.
Sundell makes the free throw, has 4 points from the line out of 6 tries. Final 40 seconds. If the Bearcats went quick, they could have gotten 2 for 1.
This extended zone for Kansas State, a lot of pressure, forcing the Bearcats 25, 30 feet away from the basket. Not a lot of opportunities to penetrate and get to the rim.
Jackson trying to drive and kick out the man who catches and hits another 3. 9 for Chloe Mann. And a big return for her family back to Manhattan. Final few seconds of the second quarter. Lee working on Hayes, goes up strong and scores her first basket. And it ends the first half of play with K-State in front, 36-24. 22 points put up by the Wildcats in that 6% for the Bearcats, and we'll see what the second half has in store for us. Sundell will operate what looks like a set play for K-State right out of the third quarter. And it's wide open for Zy Walker. Three-pointer is good.
She was the only player for K-State that didn't score in that first half. Feet set, wide open, knocks down a 3, was not at 100%, wasn't feeling well in that last non-conference game on Wednesday night, but coming back with that energy and that leadership out front. the redshirt sophomore making her name known here to start the second half.
Banked three does not go. The rebound knocked off by K-State. It'll stay with Cincinnati. With Walker scoring, all 10 players now that have played have scored. For more on what the Bearcats want to do in the second half, let's go to Sophie Smith.
Thanks, Brian. Coach Merriweather told me that she thought they did a really good job defensively in the first half, but their length, K-State's length, is just really bothering them. So they're just going to try and get some more movement in the second half, really stick to the defensive plan from the first half, and be ready for any adjustments K-State's about to make.
Oh, good start here. Hayes in the paint, working against Lee, getting the second foul on Ayoka Lee.
And I think you've got to be very deliberate in getting Jillian Hayes the basketball. She was just 1 of 6 in that first half. Not a lot of touches, but now she's got a chance at the free throw line, and those matchups are going to be critical. Now, as you said, Ayoka Lee with 2 fouls. Looks as though Jeff Mitty's going to leave her in the lineup, let her play with those 2. But you got to have that attack mentality. We mentioned it at the very top. Hayes' game, one of the reasons why she's so effective is that she can attack you in multiple ways. They got to find a way to get her some ISOs, whether it's that short corner, maybe top of the key, at that elbow range. Let her go one-on-one and see if she can't create for herself.
Good lineage for Hayes. Her father, Jonathan Hayes, longtime NFL player. Chiefs fouled before the shot. Lee claiming that she was fouled on the shot, but they're going to get Ndiba with the push from behind. But to finish the thought on Hayes, Jonathan Hayes, tight end, played for many years in the NFL. Her mom, Jillian Hayes' mom, was an all Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year at Drake in basketball. Sundell. K-State, what they do well, moving the basketball. Sundell hanging and scoring through the lane. Her first field goal.
Yeah, ball movement gets you an easy look. That mid-range jumper for Sundell, you said it. You got to get movement. You got to find a way to really disrupt. If Ayoka Lee's not going to get deep in that low block, there will be space on the floor. Jackson
inside the three-point line, won't hit. K-State gets the one and done. One of the keys that miss the outline. A little more energy by K-State here in the third quarter. Lee bowling her way in, but unable to hit the shot.
The last 2 trips, she has got much deeper on that post, Brian, and that's where they want her to be. They got to get her those touches. I think Ndiba did a great job in the first half of forcing her up the lane. But those are the possessions there. Now, if you're Cincinnati, you cannot allow her to get that deep post space and then just simply go one-on-one and finish.
10 turnovers now for the Bearcats. Another good position. Catch by Lee, easy lay-in.
Step late by Ndiba, tries to get around, but that quick post feed from the top of the key, you pin for position, she's got to get the touch.
All these guards that have played with Lee for a long time, Sundell, Walker, and Glenn, know how to find those angles. Ndiba, the offensive rebound. She'll take the ill-advised shot, and that'll miss badly. Cincinnati yet to get anything on the rim here in the second half. K-State quickly the other way, and a ball kicked by Ariel Jackson will slow up the pace of play.
You know, I think you mentioned, Brian, that kind of the familiarity of these Kansas State guards, and you added Tamyra Poindexter, who comes with a ton of experience herself. I think it's one of the reasons that Ayoka Lee said, you know what, I have that unfinished business. This is not as though we're starting from scratch. Because you bring so much back this year for this Kansas State team, high expectation, lofty goals, but being able to play with people that understand her game and understand the system, that goes so much farther. And you see where the execution, where this team has kind of put themselves top 15 in the nation here so far this season.
Drive and a miss. Lee gets the rebound. That was Hilton trying to create. Snyder now on the post, defending Lee in transition. Poindexter left open, buries the three.
And you've got to get back and get matched up with this Kansas State team in transition, taking advantage right now of the miscues. And for Cincinnati, yes, they have not been able to get anything going on the offensive end, but you cannot have breakdowns on the defensive side of the ball.
7 threes made for a team that averages 9 a game in Kansas State. That is among the top 4 of the Big 12. And if they get to double figures, they are unbeaten this year when 10 threes are made or more. And Lee's starting to take over inside on the glass. K-State running the other way. Poindexter wide open. Cincinnati did not get back, and a timeout used by the Bearcats. A 12-1 start for the third quarter for the 13th ranked Wildcats, starting to put some distance between themselves and the Cincinnati Bearcats on ESPN+. Ayoka Lee, star center for the Wildcats, came in with one of the greatest efficiency numbers in the nation. There's some big names on this list, including Juju Watkins, the nation's best player. But Ayoka Lee, now, if you add in today's scoring, 202 points in 218 minutes. And while it's not quite played out today, it's just she's such a threat in the limited time that she's been on the court. This is what she would be averaging points per game if she played a full 40 minutes. Those are some pretty good players that are on that list.
Yeah, you look at those names, and those are also all players that are playing way more minutes than Ayoka Lee has so far this season. She's averaging just under 19 minutes a game. Now, some of that, she's missed a couple here or there. They've used load management, and there's been a lot of times where they haven't needed her so far this year. We mentioned it at the top. The minutes played are going to go up as Big 12 play gets underway. The effective reason and the biggest piece of that is that they utilize her within the system to her strength. It's her ability to get the ball deep in the lane, and she can't be stopped. You've got to make the adjustments defensively, whether you bring a double, triple team, and as we're seeing here this afternoon, other players stepping up to make plays when she doesn't necessarily have to be the offensive focus.
Now, the word that gets used by Jeff Mittie and his staff a lot is gravity. The gravity that she pulls teams into the lane to have to deal with her, it makes open shots for other players.
Well, I always like to say it's you got to pick your poison. You've got to make a choice. And the choice is you're going to double, you're going to triple team. You want a front? Well, you better have better help side. Now I've got others that step up and knock down threes or good ball movement, good spacing, and I get a wide open curl cut like Serena Sundell just had there for an easy layup.
So Sundell now with 8, starting to pick it up after a first half that saw her just score from the free throw line. Mann, who does not turn down many open shots. Let's go with 3. She had the hot hand of the first half. We'll hear more about Mann coming up from Sophie Smith at her next stoppage.
It's been a stagnant first few minutes here of this third quarter for Cincinnati. They themselves needing to create more chaos, just haven't been able to get the stops they wanted on this end of the floor. And when you don't have the ability to take a turnover and run, create some easy offense with your defense, this half court has really been where they have struggled one-on-one.
8th double-figure game of the season for Tamara Poindexter, the other transfer that's been a big boon to K-State, adding to that core group. Poindexter here battling for the rebound. It's out of bounds to K-State, and that'll send us to a timeout. 4:41 to go in the third quarter. K-State still with a big lead. We're talking, though, about Chloe Mann and the Mann return, the family return to Manhattan, Kansas.
Big 12 championship team. He told me No Soft is all about having a mindset, waking up every day, betting on yourself, believing in yourself, because if you're not going to do it, no one else will.
Yeah, it's a great story having them back in Manhattan, as you said, Sophie. Thank you for that. Chayton still ranks in some of the rankings for K-State, the track program under a new coach. Poindexter hammers a three-pointer right side, and Victor Mann was getting some greetings from former teammate and Joe Hall, who works with the K-State football team here earlier. Great to have them back in Manhattan. Now in Fort Worth, Texas, so an easy flight up from Dallas right here to Manhattan, Kansas on American. Well, Ndiba, dangerous pass. What a play by Mann, showing off her athleticism. And then a lean in by Bird, doesn't quite land, and Lee the rebound. Lee starting to take over in the post in the rebound game.
Well, in Cincinnati on a scoring drought of now over close to 5.5 minutes. But you said, I think the biggest thing and one of the things about Ayoka Lee's game, and we've talked about how her minutes maybe not as many as she has played in the past, not necessarily needing to log a huge amount of minutes to start this season, but those numbers will go up in Big 12 play. But we mentioned it at the top, is that she's got to affect the game in multiple ways. You've got to be a rim protector defensively. We've seen Cincinnati change their course a couple times when they've seen her in that back line. But then also you've got to lock down that glass, and you've got to make sure that these teams do not get second chance opportunities. Be a rebounding force. That's what Ayoka Lee can do.
Sundell trying to get the rebound. Byers able to fight her off, but then throws it away, trying to pass over to fellow sophomore or second-year player Delaney Snyder.
And that scoring drought just continues now for Cincinnati, close to 6 minutes. Another turnover they have racked up, and as we said at the start, and one of those things, an area of focus for Coach Merriweather, when they don't turn it over, things have been much better for them. The consistency that they need from top to bottom, every player on the floor, to be able to take care of the basketball and value those possessions. They've been few and far between here this afternoon.
Lee working down on the post, getting a lot more run, as you said, more minutes coming here in Big 12 play, and she's played almost the entirety of this third quarter, and now Snyder with a foul trying to guard her down low.
Well, and you have to. She's going to know there's going to be games where she's going to have to play a lot more minutes than she has in the non-con. There's been a host of games where Kansas State has dominated, and they haven't necessarily needed her as much. But you know, in conference play, a lot of great posts in the Big 12, and a lot of great matchups. You want to force teams to have to scheme and plan for having the All-American inside.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun this year in the conference, watching her, Lee, go against some of the great big players in the Big 12. So Donna Prince, a different sized and different player in the post for TCU, who has grabbed a lot of headlines here early for the Big 12.
Just intriguing matchups, and I think that's what you're going to see all throughout the course of the season. And I asked Coach Merriweather now at her second trip through the Big 12, back at her alma mater at Cincinnati. She said, you just got to continue to plan. It is hard always to game plan because you see so many different systems and so many different types of players. But the one thing you can count on in the Big 12 Conference is that every roster is stacked. Talent beyond talent. You've got to prepare and be ready night in, night out.
And the talent only getting better in the Big 12 in the years to come. A number of the conference teams ranked in the top 10 in recruiting. We'll get to that coming up as an offensive foul and an illegal screen by Kansas State will be their turnover. It's still a 16-0 run here, and as you mentioned, Missy mentioned earlier, Cincinnati yet to hit a shot here in the second half, 0 for 11 from the field.
I feel like this has been one of those trends for Jeff Biddy's team, that there's usually been at least one quarter, maybe two, depending on who the opponent has been this year, where they have dominated, where their defense has been stifling, where they have been great on the offensive end, make the next pass, go from good shot to a great shot. We're seeing that here in this third 10 minutes, 19-1 here in this third quarter for Kansas State.
The last made shot for Cincinnati was at the 22-second mark left in the second quarter.
Yeah.
So it's been a bit.
Yes.
Since the shot's gone in. Lee is going to come out. She's been a big part of that.
And keep in mind, Cincinnati, their leading scorer, Jillian Hayes, she's just 1 of 7 from the field, comes into today. Looking at her numbers, averaging 17.6 points, over 10 rebounds, a double-double, both in the top 10 in the Big 12. She's the second leading rebounder in this league, and she has been held in check this afternoon.
Maupin's going to get hit with her second. It's a foul you might live with for Jeff Biddy. She was trying to get the rebound. The great leaper that is Maupin. So now you have Taylor in there guarding Hayes. Power against power in that matchup. Drive by Jackson, could not get the look for Hayes. Hayes working to get open. Ariel Jackson a guarded three. Jillian Hayes the rebound. Great find of Ndiba underneath.
And that is her ability to create on the glass. You see how she just has an instinct to be able to go and get long rebounds, second chance opportunities for herself and for her teammates.
Jeff Biddy, I think, wants a timeout. So the Wildcat head coach is going to call a timeout. Did not like the look of his team. Burns one here, 55-27. Mentioned it earlier that Kansas State in recruiting rankings has a good class set for next year. They're going to be ranked in the top 10. And Cincinnati also is in the top 10. Kansas down the road in Lawrence also with a top 10 ranking in the recruit of a class. And the Wildcats have one of those top 10 kids here, or top class here, Anaya Foy, who was ranked in the top 50 overall nationally, number 45 player in the country, four-star kid out of Katy, Texas. She is here today watching the Wildcats. 6-foot guard, one of the more length is what K-State had. They've added Jordan Spicer, who also signed the nation's number 9 overall player. And Cincinnati Same thing. We talked to Katrina Merriweather. They've got a great recruiting class. It's also ranked to the top 10.
Well, just a host of talent in that Cincinnati area, and Katrina Merriweather and her staff able to tap in. They signed Dee Alexander, the guard. She plays at Purcell Marion High School. She's the highest ranked recruit in program history, number 10 in the latest ESPN.com rankings. A 5-star kid and just a gamer. And that is one of the things, and it just has meant an incredible amount to the staff and to the Cincinnati program to get that kind of buy-in. A hometown kid that says, I want to be there, you want to build. They understand foundation, and that's what they're doing at Cincinnati.
Now you got Jillian Hayes, who's from Cincinnati. Now Alexander coming. It's a great transition.
A pipeline.
Absolutely.
I mean, people don't realize. And great high school girls basketball in the state of Ohio. Think about the number of players that have gone to Indiana, and they've been at Ohio State or at Notre Dame that have come from the state of Ohio. There's been a host of them. Cincinnati can keep some of the top talent at home. That means a great deal for building your program.
Well, it means a lot to Katrina Merriweather as well, who played at Cincinnati. She came home to rebuild the program. Memphis, Wright State. She has been a master of rebuilding programs at those two places. Took Memphis to the postseason after they had not been a long time, won 20 games before she took this job at Wright State. The same thing, 5 years there, took them to 2 NCAA tournaments.
And it's not easy to do in the Big 12, and I think she would be very honest and tell you that. So she knows that this is just sort of, you've got to be deliberate, and you have to do it piece by piece, and that you have to continue to bring your A game each and every time, whether it's in the gym at practice, in the film room, whether it's on the road, at home, all of those things come into play, but you do it bit by bit. You get the buy-in, you're intentional about what you want to do in the transfer portal, and then you sign big-time classes and you build with those young players.
In the meantime, Bearcats trying to get a little bit of momentum here at the end of the third quarter. They've trailed by as many as 30. Baseline jumper won't go, and Diva tracks down the rebound, and she gets fouled by K-State.
Yeah, another offensive rebound, and that's one of the areas that has been a huge focus for the Bearcats. We said it at the very top. They had 18 offensive rebounds in their win against Marshall earlier, their last non-conference game. They were up 17 at one point in that game, but they end up winning 67-64. Marshall made a run. While they turned it over, it was the offensive rebounds that helped them create that distance and give them a chance to win that game.
K-State in transition, final few seconds of the third quarter. K-State trying to run a little clock. Sides thought about it. Poindexter also thought about it, lost the ball out of bounds, and turns it over. So a chance, K-State, to have the final shot of the quarter, and maybe they turned down some shots thinking they could wind the clock down even farther, but Poindexter gets a little crossed up on her own feet.
Well, I think the ball got stuck. They were stuck on that right side of the floor, Brian. They had 3 or 4 handoffs, didn't make any space and create any. Now an opportunity here for Cincinnati.
Shot good, and a foul by Sides, and a chance at a 3-point play by Reagan Jackson.
She's the top 3-point shooter for this Cincinnati squad coming into today. 33% from behind that 3-point line. And Taryn Sides just gets caught up wide, coming around off that screen. You chase a shooter, you cannot create that extra contact. Really, ultimately, the cardinal rule of basketball, do not foul a 3-point shooter. But they get Reagan Jackson, and she's headed to the line here.
They counted the shot as a 3. They will look at it. Rebound foul against Cincinnati, Jillian Hayes. That'll be her second. And that'll send us to the other end for free throws, because that's the 5th foul. So a pretty heady move by Poindexter, who had the mistake on the other end, and now she'll get the 5th foul and get to the free throw line for 2. Get another look at this shot by Reagan Jackson. They will take a look at this, Brian Garland said, but it looked like,
yeah, she is well behind that 3-point line. And as we said, Taryn Sides just trailing on that screen, comes wide around Jillian Hayes as she set it up high on that wing. They were looking to get the ball to Jackson. As we said, top 3-point shooter for the Bearcats coming into today. You want to get her that touch. And as Sides created too much contact, Jackson able to knock it down. She had 6 double-figure games a year ago in conference play as a freshman, averaging close to 30 minutes a game this year as a sophomore. You see the growing pains. There's been some turnovers, some inopportune plays going both directions. But I think Reagan Jackson, a very, very bright future in the Big 12 for Cincinnati.
Yep. See Jesse Dickerson and Brian Garland talking with the table, trying to get the timing right. 4.9 on the clock for Poindexter, who is K-State's best free throw shooter at 87.5%, but she misses the first, hits the second. 14 for Poindexter, who scores 11 of that here in the third quarter. And a banked-in three-pointer by Ariel Jackson to end the third. So after a disastrous start to the quarter for the
defense, they got themselves some stops, a couple offensive rebounds, and now see if they can do exactly what you need to. I would put the ball in the hands of Jillian Hayes. She's got to have touches, allow her some opportunity for isolation, and that is it one-on-one. Ioka Lee's not matched up with her, which means that's going to be an advantage for Hayes. Get her the basketball, see if she can't get herself to the rim and score, generate some second chance opportunities.
Hayes to the free throw line for two. The foul is on Serena Sundell. That is her first. And Hayes to the free throw line where she's 1 of 2. She'll make the first.
And that's a tough matchup for Serena Sundell just because of the strength and the versatility of Jillian Hayes. And she is going to go at you, not afraid to be physical, down on that low block, post you up one-on-one, take advantage. Now Kansas State, they've got to have a better 10 minutes here, Brian, on this end of the floor. Better execution, good high percentage shots, make that next pass, go from a good shot to a great shot.
No field goals in the last 4.5 minutes of the third quarter for K-State. And Cincinnati on a 14-2 run on K-State. Counting the end of that third quarter, make it 16-2 run.
One-on-one for Andiba on that low block. Ioka Lee not altering that shot. Let her kind of step off. She knocks down the jumper right in her face.
Trying to get Lee down on the post. Sundell knocked to the ground, picked up by Walker. 9 minutes to go in the game. And Poindexter travels with it.
She was looking for Ioka Lee, seeing if they couldn't get that lob over the top. But give credit because Andiba, the redshirt junior, is working hard against Ioka Lee. Getting position, kind of keeping her off balance, and a turnover right there by Poindexter. That makes it number 12 for K-State here in this game.
So what looked like to be headed a blowout has now become a tight game, and Ariel Jackson, another three-pointer.
She hit the three at the shot at the end of regulation of that third quarter. Now another one, and this is a 6-0 run to start this fourth quarter for Cincinnati.
A 19-2 run going back to the third. Sundell bumped as she got to the right side of the lane. The foul will be on Hilton, her third.
We didn't feel as though foul trouble really coming into play that much. But now with Hilton with three, how important she is to be on the floor as a versatile scorer, three-level scorer, but also the primary ball handler here for the Cincinnati offense.
K-State had this place rocking in the third quarter, but now a little bit of nervousness. Not that K-State's in danger of blowing the lead, but Cincinnati continues to fight. Ariel Jackson has been a difference maker. Hilton going coast to coast, lays it in.
8-0 start for this fourth quarter for the Bearcats. And Jeff Mittie wants to talk about it. Not at all pleased. The runouts, the pace, creating offense with your defense. Cincinnati has done it here in these first 2 minutes.
They've shown great fight and have pulled to within single.
They have an 8-0 run to start this fourth quarter. She hit the three at the buzzer to end the third. Comes out, hits another three. Defensive mistake by Ziona Walker gave her that open look. Coming into today, she's got three-point range with just 4 made threes. Now 2 big ones here over the course of the last couple minutes.
Lee up strong, it's the roll in. Lee has just 6 points. K-State has not used her for scoring much here today. She does have 4 boards. Cincinnati went 0 of 13 to start the third quarter. Got down 30 points. Glenn got a late block shot. Lee comes in and blocks Hayes. But since that, before those block shots. Cincinnati had gone 8 of its last 9 with 4 threes in 4 tries in that stretch.
It has not been a stellar afternoon for Kansas State in the half court, but when they have been out in transition, whether it's knocking down threes or getting to the basket, that's where they have been most effective. Poindexter off the miss and the quick outlet, she converts on the other end. This goes from a single digit back up to multiple, and that's where Kansas State has to stay.
3rd foul on Lee as she caught the arm of Ndiba. Let me ask you this, 'cause you mentioned that about K-State's success in transition. They've hit transition threes, they've got great looks. It seems on its surface a little bit counterintuitive, right? I mean, you've got the nation's best center, potentially in Ayoka Lee, but this team, even with Lee on the court, much better when they're out running, right? I mean, they don't want to be in the half court, it seems like.
I feel like it's got to be a balance, and that's what this team has to be able to do. And we have seen possessions where she has been effective in terms of drawing so much attention. That's going to leave a shooter open on the wing. They've gotten some of those looks. They haven't necessarily knocked them down. The other factor, though, I think, Brian, and this is one of the things, is that as guards, I think you can get a little myopic. They're in a silo. They'd assume the only place that ball has to go is into the post. We'll use her as a decoy, allow her to get position. Maybe it's a quick catch and a kick back out to the opposite side. Either way, this offense has to flow through Ayoka Lee, but she doesn't necessarily have to score each and every time.
Hilton will pull up for a 3-pointer. That's in and out. Poindexter the rebound, kind of really fumbled it out of bounds as she regained her balance, and Kansas State back the other way. So far, these last 2 possessions, K-State's gone quickly with a throw into Lee, let her take the quick shot. This time she rotates out. The Wildcats get bogged down a little bit now here in the half court. 10 on the shot clock. Lee a little farther away for the basket this time. Doesn't matter. Double figures for Lee.
They pushed her out, and that's one of the few times where Ndiba has allowed her to create that space, get high, but she turns quick and is able to finish at the rim. The effectiveness of Ayoka Lee, limited minutes, high efficiency, exactly what you want out of your All-American.
And we saw that number earlier, just how efficient she is. What a shot hit by Reagan Jackson. We'll let Sundell hear about it afterwards. 10 points, 5 boards, 4 blocks for Ayoka Lee in 20 minutes. Looking for Lee again. This time Ndiba has her closed off. Glenn will take the drive to the basket. Missed the lay-in. The ball batted out by Lee.
That's also what happens. And those are going to be the possessions that Kansas State is going to get throughout the course of the Big 12 race. You're going to draw a ton of attention. You're going to force people to have to front, try to get around, move Ayoka Lee off the block, and then they don't necessarily want to help off. Therefore, you're going to have penetration and 3-point looks. You just have to be able to convert.
Another 3-pointer by Cincinnati. This one does not go for Jackson. Lee another rebound. Sundell in transition. Cut by Poindexter. Lays it in. 18, a quiet 18 for Tamara Poindexter.
Yeah, attack mentality, and that's what it has to be. We've seen it when this team's out in the full court. They have been most effective this afternoon against the Bearcats.
I said quiet because it doesn't feel like Poindexter has owned this game. She had a huge 3rd quarter when that early run hit Cincinnati. Hayes gets the rebound, gets blocked by Lee. 5th block for Ayoka Lee. K-State running again.
A lot of contact by Lee, but no whistle. I think Jillian Hayes was looking for one. Now Kansas State trying to get out and run back in the half court.
Stoppage of play. Chloe Mann is going to get back in there for Cincinnati. Ariel Jackson is going to be the one to get a breather, but it's her second half performance with that banked in 3 at the end of the 3rd that has keyed Cincinnati to stay within shouting distance.
Yeah, I think it gave them that momentum boost, and that's what you have to have. They got a couple buckets there late in that 3rd quarter, and then you build off of that. A great run to start the 4th. But then Kansas State, I think, with a much more concerted effort here in the 4th quarter. Jeff Mittie took that quick timeout. He wanted to talk about it. Can't get tunnel vision. You have to be able to give him the position. But either way, trying to figure out here, and I think a lot of consternation by Katrina Merriweather right now, what that whistle was about. Trying to give her space, but it goes against Snyder, the 6'5" sophomore.
Katrina Merriweather did not like that call. I think with Coach Merriweather, it didn't seem like there was much there. Lee was just backing down Snyder, but they got the whistle. Should be 3 fouls on Cincinnati, 1 on K-State. At least that's what I have, but the board says 2 and 2. Three-pointer was an air ball put up by Cincinnati. That'll be K-State possession with 4:17 to play.
And after such a strong start to this fourth quarter, now just 0 of 4, 1 of their last 8 for the Bearcats. Kansas State has been able to flip the switch after their slow start here in the fourth. Now 5 of 7 and a host of touches on that low block for Ioka Lee, the most effective offense here in this fourth.
And then off a curl, unable to hit, and the foul over the back by Lee. That'll be number 4. That'll be the 3rd on K-State, 4th on Lee.
And I think that's also going to be part of the struggle for Ioka Lee just herself, is that she's going to have to really commit. As this Big 12 season moves on, you got to make that true commitment. She's got to figure out a way to not have those kind of fouls. You got to stay out of foul trouble. Now, you've got a big lead, up 67-49. Not necessarily too much of an issue of her having multiple fouls. The close games on the road, she's got to spend more time on the floor in Big 12 play than she does on the bench next to Jeff Mittie and his coaching staff.
And we've seen her be judicious when it comes to blocking shots. Another run out from Poindexter. A 20-point game for Tamara Poindexter, her 2nd as a Wildcat. But the times that she's put her head down and going to go block a shot or I'm going to go get a rebound, it's been a whistle to foul on K-State. That'll be a foul on Lester, who was just battling with Snyder. That's the 4th foul on the Wildcats.
And I think that's a fair call, though. When you think about the one that was called on Snyder just a few moments ago on the other end, those seem very similar, going both directions. Fans might not like it, but I can tell if the whistle's going to be on that end, it's got to be the same on this.
Throwaway on the inbound. It may have hit the back of Jaden Glenn, so it stays with Cincinnati. They'll play it in from the corner. Chloe Mann will be unguarded. Final 3:40 of this one. The lead back to 20 for K-State. They've led by as many as 30. Mann was ready to let that go, but thought better of it. Now she'll go one-on-one against Glenn. And Chloe Mann drills the jumper. Double figures for the daughter of 2 K-State greats.
You can see there are a lot of tools in the toolbox for Chloe Mann with her speed, her athleticism. She's got that competitive spirit. Her coaches say she's a winner. All of those things, exactly what you want in young players. Think about the foundation, kind of the mentality of this team, what their identity is. It's going to be that, no doubt.
Tough shot made by Byers, her first field goal since the first quarter. And that makes it a little 4-0 run by the Bearcats. As the minutes begin to tick off, and Cincinnati Mann's only Power 4 conference offer. She gets a steal here, but throws it away to Walker. And Walker did not see Mann recover and get another steal. Chloe Mann showing all the toolbox, and she gets a foul on Lester to get to the free throw line.
Quick hands, active on the defensive end, and then you make something happen out in transition. And Chloe Mann has had a great afternoon. Her first trip here to Manhattan, Kansas, an all-state high school player at Duncanville High School. Fort Worth is home for her, but found a place at Cincinnati. And you can see she is going to most definitely be one of those players for Katrina Merriweather. They grind it out. You're going to rebound. You're going to defend. You're going to make people miserable. You're going to figure out a way. And as they look for consistency, freshmen trying to find their own consistency. Coaches asking a lot of them, but Chloe Mann making a name for herself in the first Big 12 game of her career.
Leading scorer for the Bearcats, 13 off the bench, 5 of 6 at the free throw line for the Big 12's 3rd best free throw shooter. And has a couple of steals. 2 minutes to go as Kansas State tries to extend their winning streak to 8 in a row. Sundell up a hard screen by Walker, and Serena becomes the 4th player in double figures for K-State.
You know, it's so interesting because you watch that movement, whether it's a quick handoff or a quick screen, and it's really just a flyby. And when that happens, there can be a lot of contact, no whistle, but Sundell knocks down that mid-range jumper.
A lesson some of these players are learning again today about Big 12 play. Everybody goes hard. No one lays down.
You got it. And it is incredibly physical, and we have seen that all afternoon. Big 12 women's basketball fans out there, get ready, because each and every game this season, no matter who you are cheering for, no matter who the matchup is, it's going to be physical and it's going to be intense.
Lester will take the long jumper, won't hit. Rebound Cincinnati. Double-double today for Sundell, by the way. 11 points, 11 assists. Another baked-in shot. Reagan Jackson with 7. And a minute 10 to go in this one.
Jackson has been a bright spot, I think, over the course of the last few games for Cincinnati. Yet another one of those young players helping to build that foundation for what Katrina Merriweather wants to do at her alma mater.
29 in the game earlier this year against Western Illinois. Poindexter straight on 3. 23 for Poindexter. Ties her season high, which came against Belmont, one of those great mid-major teams.
Well, you said it, quiet. It has felt like a very quiet 23 points today by the transfer from Tulsa, but you see the effectiveness of her game, whether she's going to step out, knock down threes, hit them in transition, whether she's in the full court off the dribble drive. A handful to contain and a big piece of this offense for Kansas State.
Man falling to the ground trying to get a foul. Lester on a beautiful feed inside, and Lester with her first field goal. Final 30 seconds. Cincinnati will try and get the final shot here and eclipse 60 points, trim what was a 30-point deficit into the teens.
It was a 66-41 win for Kansas State a year ago when these two teams matched up to open Big 12 play at Cincinnati. They play each other to start the conference season yet again this season, and Kansas State is going to have that first home win and stay at 1-0 in Big 12 play.
A hard-fought 76-59 win for Jeff Biddy's team, who improves to 13-1.